On a chilly October morning, the sun barely peeking over the horizon, I found myself walking along the worn-out fence line of what used to be the thriving Adams Ranch. I'm Nathan Adams, and this place has been in my family for generations. My great-grandfather, my grandfather, my father, hell, even Mahave all worked these fields, raised cattle, watched the seasons change year after year. But after my wife, Laura, passed 2 years ago, something inside me had changed. It wasn't just her absence that left the house hollow, it was this land. It felt different, like it had lost its pulse. And now, here I was, walking alone along this fence, the only sound the crunch of my boots in the dry leaves. I was 62 years old, retired from the local sheriff's department, and to be honest, I never really had much of a retirement plan. I'd always expected to spend my days here, tending to the land, maybe taking it easy a bit. But the truth was, I was lost. I spent most of my days just staring at the fields, wandering, trying to find some meaning to the emptiness I felt. And that morning, something was different. I was nearing the farthest corner of the property when I heard it. A sound that sliced through the quiet of the morning. A labored breath. A desperate one. My heart sank as I followed the sound, pushing my way through the overgrown grass that had taken over in the years since we'd stopped keeping up with the ranch's upkeep. And then, there it was just off to the side of an old, stagnant pond, the figure of a large bull, collapsed on its side. Its glossy black coat was matted with dirt, and its ribs stuck out from under the skin like a cruel reminder of the slow death it was enduring. The animal's breathing was shallow, weak, as if it was holding on by the smallest thread of life. I knelt beside him, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something stir in me that wasn't grief. It was compassion, a real need to help. The bull's eyes were clouded with pain, but there was something else there, a flicker of recognition, a recognition of another soul who cared. I gently touched his neck, the soft, trembling skin beneath my hand telling me what I already knew. This wasn't just an abandoned animal. This was someone's lost property. Someone's asset that had been discarded when it was no longer profitable. "Who did this to you?" I murmured, my voice breaking under the weight of the question. I didn't expect an answer, but it felt right to ask. I ran my hand down its flank and saw the remnants of an identification tag, the faded marks of a brand. This bull had once been someone's prized livestock, and now it was nothing more than a dying animal, forgotten and left to rot on the land that had once been full of life. I should have called animal control. I should have reported it, let them handle it. But I couldn't. Not this time. Something about the way that bull looked at me, the way it trusted me even in its agony, reminded me of my own purpose. I had spent my entire life as a sheriff, a protector, someone who stepped in when others couldn't. And this animal, abandoned and broken, needed me in a way I hadn't been needed in years. "I'm going to get you some water, big guy. Stay with me," I told him, as if he could understand. My knees ached as I stood, creaking and cracking under my weight, but I had a task. I had to save him. Even if it was just for a day more of life, I had to try. The walk back to my truck felt like 1,000 miles. My mind raced as I considered the impossible list of things this bull needed: water, electrolytes, antibiotics, shelter, food, medical care. But at 62, with no veterinary license and no real way to fund such a thing, I was running on empty. I was running on hope, and when I returned to that muddy field, bucket of water in hand, I found the bull had lifted his head, weakly, as if he had been waiting for me. He was still there, and I was still here, and somehow that mattered. I stayed by his side for the next 2 days, feeding him small sips of water, coaxing him to eat whatever I could get into him. Every time he managed to stand, I cheered him on like he was my own child learning to walk. It was slow, agonizingly slow, but it was progress. And progress, however small, was something I hadn't had in years. I wasn't just helping a dying animal. I was helping myself. It was on the 3rd day that I decided I couldn't do this alone. I called Dr. Maria Stevenson, my old friend from the vet office. She'd retired a year before, but when I told her about the bull's condition, she didn't hesitate. "I'll be there," she said, just like she always had when someone needed help. She and I worked side by side, doing what we could with the limited resources I had. It wasn't easy, but seeing the bull slowly begin to show signs of recovery that was worth more than anything I had. We started calling him Champion, because by God, he was a fighter. And in those first days, as I watched him regain his strength, I realized that I was fighting too. Fighting against loneliness. Fighting against the idea that I was too old to make a difference. Fighting against everything that told me I should give up. But I couldn't. Champion's recovery wasn't just physical. It was emotional, too. There was something about the bond we formed that was hard to put into words. As the days passed, he grew stronger, more alert. He started following me around the ranch, nuzzling me gently, as if he knew. He knew that I had saved him, and now he was saving me. Every time I sat down to rest, Champion would stand beside me, like a silent guardian, making sure I didn't feel so alone. It wasn't long before the news got out. Local reporters picked up on the story of an old sheriff and his rescued bull, and the footage of Champion gently nuzzling me, pressing his massive head against my chest, went viral. People were moved by the sight of an animal, once abandoned, now trusting a human being again. The media attention was overwhelming, but in a way, it brought something I hadn't expected: hope. But it wasn't just the media who took notice. Animal welfare organizations reached out, offering support, donations, and volunteers. It felt like the whole world was cheering us on. And as the weeks passed, Champion started working with people, not just me. He visited elderly homes, children's hospitals, and eventually, the local Veterans Center. He had this gift, this calming presence that reached into people's hearts and made them believe again. Then came the day I got the call from Sunrise Senior Living. They wanted Champion to come visit their residents, those who hadn't spoken in months, those who had given up on life. I wasn't sure if I was ready to take Champion out of the quiet of the ranch, but he seemed to understand. The first day we went, he walked right up to an elderly woman named Eleanor, who hadn't spoken a word since her husband passed. But when Champion laid his head gently in her lap, she spoke. "Hello, beautiful boy." The moment was captured on film, and it was that moment that changed everything. It wasn't just a story about an old man and his bull. It was a story about redemption, about how kindness and compassion could heal not just the one who received it, but the one who gave it too. As months passed, Champion became a regular at Sunrise, and the story spread. We started the Champion's Heart Foundation, dedicated to training therapy animals and helping those in need. Champion's legacy, his ability to heal, had become a movement, and I couldn't be more proud. But that one-year anniversary, when we celebrated the lives Champion had touched, that's when it hit me. This wasn't just about saving a bull. This was about finding a new purpose when everything else felt lost. We had found each other, not by coincidence, but because we both needed something. And together, we were changing the world, one act of kindness at a time. And that, folks, is the story of how one abandoned bull and one retired sheriff saved each other. How two lives, once lost, found meaning and purpose again. So, I ask you, what's the greatest act of kindness you've ever witnessed? And how has it changed you? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it, because sometimes we all need a reminder that love, compassion, and a little bit of hope can change everything.